U.S. Military Strategies in World War II, a presentation by Holly Waller. First question we are going to look at is why the U.S. was caught off guard and unprepared for the attack on Pearl Harbor. The reasoning behind why the U.S. was so ill-prepared for the attack on Pearl Harbor can be seen in the document Pearl Harbor in retrospect. The reason being that the U.S. thought the Japanese would think that the base was already well prepared and would not attack. It would have been a long shot, and there was very little logical reasoning for Japan to attack Pearl Harbor. At the bottom of the PowerPoint, you can see the link to Pearl Harbor in retrospect. The next question we are going to look at is would the U.S. have entered the war in Europe or the Pacific without Pearl Harbor? To understand this question, we would have to know what was going on in the U.S. before Pearl Harbor took place. The U.S. would have more than likely still have entered the war without the attack on Pearl Harbor. 5 weeks before the attack on Pearl Harbor, Germany had sank the American destroyer, the USS Reuben James. 2 weeks before, the U.S. had taken out a German weather station. American lives were already being taken if it was intended or not. Also, America was already indirectly involved. The U.S. had created acts to help out other nations such as the Lend-Lease Act. So in other words, the U.S. was already basically involved in the war in a loophole way. How did the U.S. bring out a successful outcome? The attack on Pearl Harbor was devastating. However, the outcome was the opposite of what Japan expected. Rather than hurt the U.S. in a dramatic way, in a twisted way it made America stronger. It gave FDR the reason he needed to declare war. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, it got the attention of Congress, who then gave the okay for a declaration of war. It also brought the people of America closer together and gave them the will to fight. Before the attack, citizens were split on the idea of going to war. After all, they were still dealing with the repercussions of World War I. With these motivations in mind, the U.S. was able to bring out a successful outcome and help win the war. In the first picture on the left, you can see a news headline reading, Oahu bombed by Japanese planes, war. At this time, war had not been declared yet. This just shows that people were already demanding war. In the next two pictures, you can see ships sunk from the bombing of Pearl Harbor. In both of these pictures, you can see that the amount of destruction was insane. This brings up the question of how could the U.S. not have went to war after this has happened? The only logical thing was for them to go to war after this. This is why the bombing of Pearl Harbor brought the U.S. into the war. In this picture, you can see the different groups of the Japanese planes for their bombing of Hawaii. In the different groups, it tells you what kind of bombs they were going to drop, how many planes they were going to hit, and how many planes they would hit the second time. The first group was going to drop torpedoes and bombs, expected to hit 89 planes on the first wave and 54 on the second. The second group was going to drop 250 kg bombs. On the first wave, they expected to hit 51 planes, and on the second wave, they expected to attack 28 planes. In the third group, they were going to drop 20 mm cannons. They expected to hit 43 planes on the first attack and 27 on the second attack. In the top right, you can see the Japanese force that was used. They used 6 aircraft containers, 2 battleships, 2 heavy cruisers, 9 destroyers, 1 light cruisers, 28 submarines, and 414 aircrafts. Throughout the diagram, you can see what areas were attacked and what ships were sunk or damaged. You can tell this by looking at the key in the middle of the top page. At the bottom of the diagram, you can see the casualties and losses for Japan and the United States. Japan lost 29 planes, 6 submarines, and had a total death number of 185. The U.S. lost 164 planes, 18 ships, and had a total death number of 2,390. Compared to what the Japanese lost, the United States suffered greatly, and it can be seen as why they were to declare war after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The next image is titled Pearl Harbor by the Numbers. It says, on December 7, 1941, a day truly living in Fanny, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. Always will we remember the character of the onslaught against us. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this permanent invasion, the American people and their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. Franklin D. Roosevelt in his speech delivered to Congress December 8, 1941. Under this, you can see the number of U.S. Navy Medals of Honor recipients was 15, 51 Navy Cross recipients, 3 numbers of total loss of U.S. Navy ships, 2008 number of U.S. Navy personnel killed in action, 218 U.S. Army Federal killed in action, 109 number of U.S. Marine killed in action, 68 number of civilian lives were taken. The number of U.S. Navy ships repaired and returned to service were 17. These were the USS Maryland, the USS Nevada, USS Tennessee, USS Pennsylvania, USS Cason, USS Downers, USS Helm, USS Helena, USS Hopewell, USS Rayland, USS Curtis, USS Fredstad. The ships sunk, raised, and repaired were the USS California, the USS West Virginia, USS Ulloa, USS Soyotono, USS Dry Dock. Underneath this is a picture of the USS West Virginia B-48 approaching dry dock as Pearl Harbor Navy Yard, June 8, 1942, just over 6 months after she was sunk in the Japanese air raid on Pearl Harbor. Gain a better understanding. For this lesson, you are going to need to write an essay. In order to gain a better understanding for the topic, you will need to write an essay on the bombing of Pearl Harbor. For this essay, pretend you were in Congress during World War II. Propose your thoughts on why we should not prepare for attack on Pearl Harbor, and then choose a side to either join the war now or never. Thoroughly explain your reasoning and make sure to cite your sources used. You will need at least 3 sources, 1 for each paragraph. So basically, when I say choose a side either to join now or never, pretend that Pearl Harbor never happened. Go based off of the information you know of where the U.S. was at the time, and argue whether we should join the war now or if we should never join it at all, and just see how it plays out.